Lord have mercy. Somebody's gonna suffer a brain aneurysm before the spiderweb mystery is solved. The different amount of directions we're branching off into is driving the Red Dead community almost literally insane. I think finding a needle in a haystack would be easier than finding where this wild goose chase takes us. But it's still fun to speculate and contemplate, plus it's getting the gaming world back into the saddle once again for what is most likely the final Red Dead 2 adventure before we all make the transition into Grand Theft Auto 6, hopefully later this year. In this video, I'll be discussing all the newest potential clues and leads that the Red Dead fiends have discovered in recent times that may guide us to the next part of this puzzle. If you have your own theories or ideas you'd like to share, lay it on me in the comments. Who knows, you might make a breakthrough. Our last official sign left by Rockstar was found here at Fort Wallace above the tallest tower where the two bird symbols were located. From here, the trail has taken so many twists and turns it's hard to determine which is the actual one to follow. The previous clue to the two bird symbols lead the player to a guitar northwest of the last telephone pole. But is it a literal guitar? That's the question on everyone's mind. In a sense, I do believe the physical guitars in the fort have sustenance to finding where to go next. But what I think the bird symbols may be directing us to is to get a bird's eye view of the fort rather than actual birds to follow. And then again, maybe it's not. However, an aerial view of the fort reveals that the layout resembles one big guitar shape, as pointed out by Strangeman on his channel a few weeks ago. Which convinces me that my suspicion of Window Rock being the next step is true. However, the mural there is as confusing as the mystery itself. The only source of confirmation here, in my opinion, are the weird spider-looking symbols. That's the dead giveaway in my eyes that we're on the right track. But the only problem is, what the hell do we do now? A post on Reddit mentioned that if we overlay the mural image over the map, it in some ways lines up with previously discovered locations to the Spiderdream, such as the target symbols matching perfectly with places like Cornwall's factory or possibly directing us to new locations. I should probably mention that this particular user used the center of the mural as a starting point to be overlaid on the map, with the target that has the missing statue over the cave where they can be found. Based on this, we can see points of possible interest where the targets land on the map, like CASTOR'S Ridge for instance. It was noted that CALIBAN'S seat can be viewed from this area, which coincidentally is modeled from a real-life location in Arizona called Spider Rock. There's not much to be found here except the next part of the Jack Hall gang's treasure hunt and a small camp at the top of the mesa. There is an interesting discovery at the bottom of the rock formations though, the skeleton of a man that presumably fell to his death some time ago, probably while looking for the Jack Hall gang's treasure. The trail goes cold from there unless you guys have any insight on this. The only other thing that comes to mind about this area on the map is when Mr. Mason utilized this as his backdrop when photographing eagles.
Damn!
So maybe that's the next cue, seeing as birds play somewhat of a major role in that mystery, as ridiculous as that sounds. While on the subject of CASTOR'S Ridge, if you recall from my previous Spiderdream video how I mentioned the number 8 being of significance, well, what if we have to wait until the epilogue to complete this puzzle? Let me explain. The number 8 being the number of legs to the spider and the amount of webs. The Window Rock mural has the 7 statues plus the missing one. What if we have to wait those 8 years between 1899 to 1907 before we can continue? CASTOR'S Ridge can be completed before then, however, but what I'd like to point out is that the guitar inside may be somehow related, and maybe it's not. I just thought it would be worth mentioning though. Before moving on to the next theories, the same user that proposed the mural overlay also found that the spider symbol on the bottom left side of the painting nearly lines up perfectly with BERYL'S dream, way on the other side of the map, possibly tying into the idea that the path is picked up on Mount Shan. Not much is known yet, other than the mining hat and a few other minor things that can be found inside this cave. The name itself might be a solid clue here. I'm not familiar with data mining and coding, but since the Spiderdream is the official name we're given, maybe that's the hint that we're on the right track to presume BERYL'S dream is the right place to start looking. I haven't had much time to explore it as much as I like, so maybe someone with more time on their hands can yield some proper results. Another area of curiosity, not far from BERYL'S dream, is the native burial ground. This place has been confusing and terrifying gamers for the last 7 years, and finally it appears to have a meaning. As we all know by now, messing with the burial ground in any way produces a lightning strike followed by endless rain. The connection being Native Americans' involvement, which many players, including myself, have believed to be the main concept of the Spiderdream. The ceremonial staffs include the feathers, tied to the cable webs in New Hanover. The main staff even looks as if it were in the shape of a spider, or maybe I'm just starting to see shit too. Since this mystery is influenced by Native American practices, another key location that comes to mind is the place Rain's Fall brings Arthur to in the mountains. You know, that sacred site where he loses the chalupa? Kinda strange that everyone in the army is tripping out over a Taco Bell item. Like the burial ground, you can find lots of ceremonial artifacts scattered around here. The feather sticks, I'll just call them for now for lack of a better term, bring us back to that specific and mysterious number 8. Beside the burnt tent is a skull like the ones from before, with an arrow stuck through it. And no matter what you do, you cannot destroy it. At most it will roll down the hill away from your sorry ass. Other than that, no other clues were found, unfortunately. Perhaps there are more around, but I suck at this type of thing, so chances are I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But I'm not claiming to know any answers, I just want to share points of interest that might help others in their search. The next native-inspired site that could be... Oh shit, there goes my corn. As I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted, the next native-inspired site that could be the next part of this hunt is Fort Riggs, a place haunted by the countless atrocities that occurred there. Very fitting with the dark nature surrounding this mystery. Feathers can be found all over the place here, and that's not all. After you meet the drunk camper out on the old dusty trail, a feather icon will appear at Fort Riggs on the map. It's revealed that he was one of the participants that committed these crimes against humanity, and now carries the guilt of what he did, all these years later.
You're a place called Fort Riggs? South of Strawberry. Indians penned in there like cattle. I ain't know what's worse. Seeing the ones we killed or watching the other ones die. Slow way. Well, they pay well. Them government boys. But the money don't last long. It's what you did. Sticks around. I was a young man then, but still see them faces clear as yesterday. I do.
Now as for the feather icon, it's still unclear exactly what that's supposed to represent, since it disappears once you get within a certain distance of it. Maybe it's cut content that Rockstar couldn't be bothered to correct, or maybe it does have to do with the Spiderdream. What y'all think? There's spiderwebs that spawn here as well, but I'm sure it just has to be decoration. Like the giant question mark opposite Wapiti, I just never saw how it could be connected to the same thing. The only thing of interest that way is the ancient tomahawk. Maybe somehow it's connected to a different mystery, and maybe it's not. I've seen many people that claim the LOFT may hold the next part of this secret in the form of the telegraph machine. Unless there's a specific code or message involved with this, it's just a false trail. The only other similar piece of technology is found at Marco's lab in Roanoke Forest. Maybe there's a way to bring the robot back to life, but I doubt it. The only thing that I was able to notice is that the handkerchiefs above the telegraph machine are the same colors as the ancient tomahawk. It's killing me to piece that together, but I just can't crack the code, mates. Now we move on to the heart symbol on the bridge. I had no idea it was related to the Spiderdream at all, but according to Strangeman's video, the other heart found at Flat Neck Station is the other missing piece of this puzzle. And overlaid onto the map created an arrow that points directly to the forest north of Wallace Station. But by this point I feel it's gone way off track. There's not much in this area that's related to it. I mean, there's an old lookout by the railroad tracks that have a pair of binoculars that point towards a fireplace at the old homestead northwest of there. Again, I didn't find anything here except an ass whooping from a grizzly bear. So perhaps it's just a dead trail as well. Many people theorize that our next best lead is actually in Valentine, which would make a bit more sense to me. Maybe we're just moving a bit too fast and are overlooking a lot of minor things. I've checked a lot of the buildings in town and haven't found anything worth mentioning yet, besides the theory circulating on Reddit that the church is the answer here. Above the doors of the old church are the words, "Let there be light." And if you hang around between the hours of 9 p.m. and 12 a.m., you can see the light switch on. I don't know what's the significance at this point. Only thing I could come up with was that the graveyard might help. The graves on the north side of the church have two matching shapes to the bird symbols at Fort Wallace. Might be something. The next grave has the quote strength and faith, but in a very spooky font. I don't know how else to explain it. Also might be something, or I might just be a f***ing jackass. But the next grave is where things get interesting. There's a finger pointing east. It appears we found a new trail, but guess what? Again, it leads to Dick. Straight ahead a little ways is an old wagon with a tomahawk through it. Tomahawk you say? But where to go from here? I guess to your mama's house. Back to the pointing finger on the grave could actually be signaling us to look directly up rather than head east. Apparently the real life meaning of a finger pointing up on a grave means one's soul has ascended to heaven. And since we cannot go to heaven in Red Dead Redemption 2, maybe that means we're supposed to look to the stars. Red Dead Redemption 2 has probably the most elaborate and detailed solar system I've ever seen in a video game, so constellations would surely make a great way to hide secrets. Looking literally to the stars might have been the step that we were missing all this time. Possibly the church lights might be the trigger when we have to look up, but on a certain night to accommodate for the Earth's rotation. But I'm not educated in the field of stargazing, so if anyone has any experience with astrology or constellations, help us out, man, we need you. The last theory I have is, since the pointing finger is the last good lead in my mind, maybe it's pointing in the general direction of the birds of paradise flowers. Also, in one of Strangeman's last videos, he brought up an idea of how their locations around the northern New Hanover region are geographically incorrect, possibly hinting that they are the next solid clue. The feathers on the poles do share the bird correlation, so maybe he's onto something there. See if you're the one to crack this code. You'll go down in history, amigo. While on the subject of Valentine, I wonder if this mystery is somehow correlated with its curse. As far as I was aware, this was cut content, but maybe the Spiderdream is where the Valentine curse tapers off. The Native American integration into this whole thing provides the best evidence that these are one and the same. However, clues are still lacking, so what could be the next best lead we can go off? There's a particular camp encounter in Chapter 2 that might have been overlooked all this time. Karen and Mary Beth will be going about their usual chores when the subject of the Valentine massacre comes up.
I wonder why they called it Valentine. Almost perverse. Seems polar opposite of romantic.
Well, I don't know. Some lady I was speaking to in town told me about a curse.
A curse? Now nothing's more romantic than a curse.
Exactly. Prince turned into a toad, lovers into stone, entire country turned into morons. Curses everywhere.
What's Valentine's curse?
Well, I didn't quite understand what the woman was saying, kind of her being a bit of an idiot, but something about a massacre and a last surviving Indian cursing the county.
Well, if they massacred people, then they deserve to be cursed.
Of course.
But what was it? Was it just bad luck or bad weather or something else?
Something about an eagle or an owl or a gravesite. I didn't really get it.
Well, I think it sounds very interesting.
At the end of the story, Karen refers to an eagle or an owl and a gravesite. Is that the link we've been missing? 2 eagles or 2 owls? Maybe both. Then the gravesite. Does that mean the Valentine Cemetery? Or does that mean the native burial ground in Big Valley? I hate that there are so many theories going around that I can't land a solid idea now. This is where I'm counting on your help. Help this clueless donkey. Something else that got me thinking was the Y trees, since there are 2 locations for them in Red Dead Redemption 2. One in the Roanoke Hills, and one in the deserts of Rio Bravo. Maybe that's what the 2 bird symbols actually stand for. 2 W's. The Y trees are connected to Francis Sinclair, the time traveler in Big Valley. His involvement with the Epsilon program could be the missing clue. The spiderwebs are found on Mount Chiliad in GTA 5, so Francis Sinclair could have been the one to place them in both games, seeing as how he could step through different time periods. I'm just exhausting all possible leads here. A look at his mural in the cabin could tell us something we don't know. Let's see where all this takes us. What do you guys think? Is this all just cut content, or will we ever find the solution? And if you think so, how long do you think it will take for us to get there? Based on all the possibilities I've discussed, what do you think is the reward or outcome to all of this? The robot in the Grizzlies being revived is something I've considered since the Marco's lab lead, but I'm not so sure. Is this all for a new secret weapon? Or does it eventually lead to an encounter with a UFO? Since day 1 of this mystery, I've had a sneaking suspicion with the extraterrestrial. And now with the Mount Chiliad connection, it's more than confirmed that suspicion in my mind. You never know. Is there maybe a hidden interaction with an ancient figure of some kind? Kinda like the Giant's Cave around the loft. I don't know, man, but this already got my blood pressure too high and I'm tired. But that's not to say I haven't appreciated the time I've had to get back into the game, because that's always fun. It's just really great to see everyone get so involved with Red Dead Redemption 2. For what could be the very last time before GTA 6 takes over all our lives. Anyway, that's gonna do it for this video today. Hopefully it gave you your little fix of Red Deadoing, you Red Dead fiend. Hope everyone's been having a smooth going new year, and I'll catch you in the next one. Adios, amigo.